President Donald Trump had always been known for his fearless and bold approach to leadership. But today was different. A simple handwritten letter had made its way to his desk, sent by a struggling farmer from a small town, John Mitchell. Instead of brushing it aside like countless other messages, Trump did something no one expected. He accepted the invitation. As the presidential convoy rolled up the dusty road leading to the Mitchell family farm, the massive SUVs stood in stark contrast to the weathered barns and endless fields. Secret Service agents, ever vigilant, scanned the land, their sharp eyes tracking every movement. But in the midst of the security detail, John Mitchell stood his ground. A third-generation farmer, his hands calloused and rough from years of hard labor. He wiped them on his worn overalls before stepping forward. With unwavering confidence, he extended his hand. "Mr. President, I appreciate you coming. But I won't sugarcoat my words." Trump smirked, a familiar glint in his eye. "I wouldn't expect anything less." John didn't hesitate. "Sir, politicians love to make big promises, but out here, we're drowning. Prices keep dropping. Fuel costs keep rising. Are you here to listen or just to talk?" Trump raised an eyebrow, studying the man in front of him. "John, I respect farmers. But these things take time." John scoffed, frustration evident in his voice. "Time? We don't have time. Our land is suffering. Families are breaking under mountains of debt. Big corporations are swallowing up small farms like ours. If something doesn't change, there won't be any small farms left." Trump folded his arms, his tone firm. "I've done more for farmers than most presidents." John wasn't backing down. "Then why am I still struggling?" A heavy silence fell between them. The tension in the air was thick, making even the Secret Service agents shift uncomfortably. The moment teetered on the edge of a heated argument. And then John's wife Lisa stepped in, her voice calm but firm. "Gentlemen, let's sit down." Inside their modest farmhouse, the kitchen smelled of fresh-baked cornbread. It was a simple home, filled with family photos, worn furniture, and the unmistakable signs of hard work. John pointed at the fridge, his jaw tight. "Mr. President, we grow food for thousands of people. Yet we can barely afford our own groceries." Trump frowned, the weight of John's words settling in. "What's stopping you from succeeding?" John leaned forward, voice thick with frustration. "Big corporations. They buy up farmland, drive prices into the ground, and push families like mine out. It's not just competition, it's a takeover." Trump tapped the wooden table, deep in thought. "That's capitalism." John clenched his jaw. "There's a difference between competition and being crushed." Lisa placed a plate of homemade cornbread in front of Trump. "Mr. President, you should taste what struggling America really is." Trump took a bite, chewing thoughtfully. It was good, real, homemade, the kind of food that didn't come from a corporate chain but from the hands of people who lived off the land. Lisa smiled, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "We sell this at the market, but we barely make enough to get by." John sighed. "Farming isn't just a job, Mr. President. It's our life. It's our heritage. Our children should inherit this land, not a mountain of debt." Trump nodded slowly. "I hear you." John leaned in, eyes piercing. "But do you understand us?" For the first time, Trump looked beyond the surface. This wasn't a campaign rally. It wasn't a boardroom negotiation. It was real life. Struggles etched into the cracks of the walls, into the dirt under John's fingernails, into the tired but determined eyes of Lisa. John stood up and motioned for Trump to follow. "Let me show you something." Outside, under the vast open sky, John held up his hands, cracked, weathered and stained with soil. "These hands have worked this land since I was a boy. My father's hands looked the same. And his before him." Trump studied them. "Hard work." John nodded. "But hard work alone isn't enough anymore." Trump exhaled. "So what do you want from me?" John met his gaze. "Not handouts. Not speeches. Real action. We need policies that protect small farmers, the backbone of this country. A rare moment of silence followed. Then Trump smirked. Ever driven a tractor? John grinned. Not lately, huh? He led Trump to his old dusty John Deere. Hop in. Trump hesitated but climbed up. John handed him the controls. This is what feeds America. Trump gripped the wheel, maneuvering the heavy machine forward. It wasn't easy. Took effort, precision. And for the first time he got a taste of what farmers faced every single day. As they walked back, John wiped sweat from his brow. We're not lazy. We're not asking for favors. But banks treat us like risks, while corporations get bailouts. How is that fair? Trump frowned. I believe in free markets. John shook his head. Markets should be fair, not rigged. Trump sighed, running a hand through his hair. The system's complicated. John scoffed. Not to us. Simple. If we fail, America's food supply fails. Trump glanced around. The land, the barns, the sheer effort it took just to survive. For the first time, he wasn't just seeing numbers and policies. He was seeing people. Lisa walked over. Would you like to stay for dinner, Mr. President? Trump blinked. Dinner? John chuckled. We're blunt, but we're also hospitable. His advisors would object. His schedule was tight. But Trump nodded. All right. Lisa smiled. Good. You'll see what real farm food tastes like. John smirked. And hear more of my complaints. Trump laughed. I figured. As they sat at the dinner table, eating a meal made with love and hard work, John's voice carried a serious tone. Mr. President, what happens after you leave? Will this just be another visit? Trump set his fork down. I don't forget conversations like this. John studied him. We'll see. Something had shifted. The air in the room felt different. John tapped the table. Farmers are being forced to sell their land. Corporations control the prices. We can't compete. Trump nodded. So what's the solution? John sighed. Stronger protections for small farmers. Better trade policies. Trump rubbed his chin. I've been tough on trade. John shook his head. Yet we still suffer. We don't need politics, we need real action. Lisa added. Farming isn't just numbers, Mr. President. It's families. Generations. Trump looked around, absorbing every detail of their home. For the first time he saw the human side of policy. And it struck a nerve. As the meal ended, John leaned back. So, Mr. President, what now? Trump exhaled. I don't make empty promises. John smirked. Good. Because we don't trust empty words. Trump stood up, extending his hand. Give me time. John folded his arms. We don't have time. Trump held out his hand. I'll do something about this. After a moment, John shook it. Then prove it. 2 weeks later, John's phone rang. This is John. Familiar voice responded. John, it's Donald Trump. John nearly dropped his phone. Mr. President. I didn't forget you. I've got something in motion. John's heart pounded. What do you mean? You'll see soon enough. Blick. A month later, John sat in his truck, listening to the radio. Breaking news. President Trump has signed an executive order protecting small farmers from unfair corporate practices.